Happy game day, Bengals fans, and welcome in to the Medical Mutual Preseason Report. I'm Marisa Contipelli, joined alongside senior writer Geoff Hobson. We're getting set for the Bengals' first preseason game of the season, and the first time they're going to be taking the field at newly named Paycor Stadium. Now, Geoff, we won't see a majority of the starters this evening, that including Joe Burrow, who is still recovering from that appendectomy procedure. So the expectation is for Brandon Allen to take over in the first half, Jake Browning to come in the second half at quarterback. And Geoff, we are also going to get to see a lot of youngsters on that defensive line.
Yeah, it's been about almost a year to the day of Joseph Ossai's terrific NFL debut in Tampa, but he hasn't played since. But he'll play some tonight. We're anxious to see what he looks like after that great debut. But they're going to keep an eye on his wrist and his knee injuries that have kept him out this long. And with Khalid Kareem being out, there's going to be a host of newbies on the edge and at tackle. I think, you're going to get a good long look at the seventh rounder, Jeffrey Gunter from Coastal Carolina, who they like the looks of. And you're going to see a guy, you'll see Raymond Johnson II, who's going to get, and we don't know much about him, but we're going to probably see him get 50 snaps tonight. He'll be getting a lot of work at the edge. And I think at the backup three technique, fans get their first look at Zach Carter, the third rounder from Florida, who's been very impressive. And, I don't think we'll see much of Tyler Shelvin, last year's fourth rounder. But again, I think we'll see plenty of Dominique Davis, who's probably going to get up there playing behind nose tackle Josh Tupou. Josh won't play much, but Davis is going to get a ton of snaps. So we're going to see a lot of youngsters in the defensive trenches.
You said impressive, and I mean, Zach Carter has been having a great camp. Talking to the coaches, they're saying it's like he's popping out there on the field. So I'm with you. I'm really excited to see what he is going to bring, what he's going to do on that defensive line. And then also for me, first round pick Dax Hill in the secondary. He's another one that's had a pretty solid camp up to this point. And when I was talking to Lou Anarumo, Lou was saying that Dax's communication has grown tremendously from where it was in OTAs in the spring. And Geoff, that's going to be a big thing for him tonight, because it's not like he's going to have Von Bell next to him or Mike Hilton. A lot of those veterans that he's been surrounded by at camp aren't going to be out there. So, there's going to be a lot on Dax to really kind of lead that secondary and, really kind of lead this defense and make sure in the right spots.
Yeah, that's a great point, Marissa. I think we haven't said much about Dax, which is amazing. He's the first round pick has really gone under the radar because he's just stepped in there for Jesse Bates, and he's done what he's supposed to do. There haven't been, the defense has been terrific. That first defense has been terrific all camp, and you just haven't seen many breakdowns back there. Of course, he's got Von Bell talking him through everything, and we'll see how he does tonight, but. He's got a savvy veteran there. Michael Thomas is going to be next to him. I think Michael Thomas is at the ripe old age of 32. I think he's the oldest offensive and defensive player on a roster where no Super Bowl starter is older than 28. So Mike Thomas
Can we
looking
not
at
call him old at 32 though? I need to interrupt you. Can we not call him old at 32? He's still young by, okay?
Yeah, listen, you're preaching to the choir there. He's not as old as some of my kids. So, but that's where we are in the NFL these days. And speaking of old, and Kevin Huber is I believe is what's Hughes? Hughes is 37. Hughes is 37, right? And he is going to get a. He's 30. Yeah, he's 37. Clark Harris, the long snapper, is 38. They're the two oldest guys on the team, and they're in roster. They're in roster fights here in training camp and in the preseason. Kevin's going against the best long snapper in the country. He was the top long snapper come out of the draft in Adamitis from Pitt, and Huber's going against Drew Chrisman, a first-year guy who got hurt before he came to camp last year, but who's looked pretty impressive. He showed a long leg this spring. So the two old guys are going to be getting a run this preseason.
That's right. And the expectation is that we're expecting Huber and Chrisman to kind of go in some kind of a rotation with punting tonight. So we'll see how that plays out. But Geoff, when you look at different position battles, there's a handful of them that are going to be coming into play heavy this preseason. And, one of them is going to be on that offensive line at left guard. You have Jackson Carman, who's had, a pretty solid camp to this point. Zach Taylor was just kind of, really likes what he's been doing. And then also, rookie pick Cordell Volson out of North Dakota State. He's going to get some time in there too tonight.
Yeah, I think we'll see. We'll probably see. Jackson in the first half and Volson in the second half. And Carmen, I think he got a bad rap last year. I think people, he came in and people wanted him to be Max Montoya, and but they forgot that he was not only was he changing positions from tackle to guard, he was changing sides from left to right, and he was making the jump from college to the pros. And oh, by the way, he was coming off back surgery. So, I thought the last time we saw him, the last drive of the Kansas City game in overtime in the AFC Championship game, I thought he performed pretty well, So I just, I think Carmen's a guy that's been kind of low on the radar. People haven't really given him a hell of a lot of credit, but I think he's hung with it. I think he's, Frank Pollock, the offensive line coach, the very tough offensive line coach, he didn't say much about Jackson last year, but he's been very effusive in his praise of what he's done, to get himself in shape. He admits he came in last year at 340. Now he's at 325. He's obviously committed and got the work in. So it's a big night for Jackson.
Absolutely. And obviously having another offseason with Frank Pollock, it has done wonders. And, I have to imagine having the new veterans around too, Alex Kappa, Ted Karras, Lyle Collins, have to be helping Jackson. I mean, just when I was talking to Cordell the other day, he was just raving about those three guys and how instrumental they've been along with Frank Pollock and Cordell's development up to this point.
Yeah, you talk about that offensive line room, and just there's a massive culture shift that began when Frank came in, and then with the three veterans coming in, the two Super Bowl champions in Kappa and Karras, and then Lyle Collins, a longtime right tackle on very good Dallas teams that were among the best in running the ball. The culture is just think back to 2019. I mean, Zach's first year, Jonah Williams is now the senior Bengal. And he was in that offensive line room, and he was, and he's only been here since 2019. So there's been some massive changes in there, and rightfully so. The Bengals got a lot of kudos from the national media, after what happened in the Super Bowl, and they wasted no time in the first 48 hours of free agency and addressed that offensive line.
They certainly did. So Volson is going to be another draft pick that we will be seeing tonight, along with Tyson Anderson. Unfortunately, we will not be seeing second-round pick corner Cam Taylor-Britt. He's working on dealing with an injury, so the Bengals are going to hold him out of tonight's game. But Geoff, going back to some of those different type of position battles, that we're going to be seeing this preseason, the sixth receiver spot, that's going to be a big one as well. And you have to think that might kind of coincide with the punt return battle where, maybe one of those six receivers kind of makes a move as punt returner, and, that's how they find their way onto the team.
Yeah, I think that, Mike Thomas is secured as the guy who's the fourth receiver. You're not going to see much of him tonight, probably. And then fifth receiver, Stanley Morgan's in there. So you're looking at a guy. He's going to have to be the punt returner. You're absolutely right, Marissa. That guy is going to have to return punts. Is it going to be incumbent Trent Taylor? Is it going to be Trenton Irwin, who did it a little bit last year, a veteran that's been around a long time here? Or is it going to be the free agent rookie from Kansas, Kwame Lassiter, who has looked very impressive in camp catching routes? He's caught everything they've thrown at him, but that's not going to make it or break it for him. It's what he does in the return game. I mean, they talk about Alex Erickson here. 6 years ago, Alex Erickson was in the same position as Kwame Lassiter. He's undrafted. Alex is from Wisconsin. He didn't do anything in camp that would make him stand out in practices. But in the preseason games, every time he touched the ball, he made something happen. That's how he made the team. He came out of nowhere because of what he did when the lights went on. So, if Lassiter, Taylor, they like Trent Taylor. He didn't make any mistakes, didn't pop any big ones, but he caught everything, sent his way. He also He's won it. Remember the one time they threw him in the postseason, he caught a huge 2-pointer in the AFC Championship game. So, Laster's going to have to go along. He's going to have to knock out the champion because Darren Simmons likes Taylor's ability. But if Laster can pull an Alex Erickson and pop a couple here or there, they'll take a long look at that spot.
Were we calling that 2-point conversion? Was that the Trent Taylor special? Is that what they were coining it?
I don't know. That was I could never get Zach to say if he had any if he hooked up at all with his brother Press, who came up with the Philly special in the Super Bowl. But then later, Joe Mixon, they threw some kind of form of that in the Super Bowl when Joe Mixon threw a touchdown pass. So, but that just shows you, it's like Clay Johnson, the linebacker. He had one play in the postseason, and it was huge. He stopped Derrick Henry. He came across the line and stopped Derrick Henry on a 2-point conversion that got him into the AFC Championship game. So, guys like Taylor, guys like Johnston, they're fighting for spots, but they showed how reliable they were last year down the stretch.
Right. It's all about seizing that opportunity when it presents itself. I mean, as you were just talking about with Alex Erickson, I mean, you look at a guy, Mike Hilton, similar journey. I mean, when he was coming into the league in 2017, undrafted, cut by the Jags, cut by the Patriots, and, worked to get onto the roster of the Steelers. And I mean, you look at him now, 6 years later, he's an integral part of this Bengals defense. And so you have to wonder, could we see a guy like that out there this preseason? Who's going to wow? Who's going to flash and, really make the most out of these 3 games?
Yeah, I mean, there's a guy sitting right in that locker room. You're so well said, Mike Hilton. He's just an inspiration for any undrafted guy. But I'm going to tell you, Marissa, there's going to be a guy who we haven't talked about. There's going to be a guy we haven't talked about in the last 15 minutes who we're going to be talking about come cut down because of what he's going to do in the next 3 weeks in the games. It happens every year.
It certainly does. And Geoff, before we go, one more, area want to hit on tonight is, running back. We're expecting to see a lot of Chris Evans and Travion Williams. How do you see kind of the running back situation play out? Do you feel like it's those two vying for that 3rd spot, or do you really feel like it's kind of Chris Evans to kind of lose at this point?
Oh, yeah, there's no question. I think, Mixon and P. Ryan are your top 2 guys. And then I think Chris Evans is, Travion's going to have to knock him out. He's going to have to knock him out. But or they're going to have to keep 4 guys. But usually they keep 3 guys. But Chris had such a good rookie year. I mean, he stepped right in. He showed tremendous hands. I mean, this guy's got receiverish type hands. He can do a lot of things out of the backfield, and he can run the ball too. And as we found out, he never returned kicks until. The closest he came to returning kicks was he was a special teams coach the year he sat out of Michigan in high school, and he actually drew up kick return plays. He told Darren, "Yeah, I get some mean blocking schemes," and Darren told him, "You let me worry about the schemes. I want to see some juice from you." He wants to see on kick returns. He wants to see Chris Evans. He wants to see him make some big plays. And with Brandon Wilson, not knowing when he's going to be back. They would love to see Chris Evans pop a couple kick returns, but he's going to be a tough guy to knock off this roster.
Well, Geoff, hopefully we're going to be seeing some of that juice. As you said, we expect Evans to be back there at kick return tonight in some capacity as we are getting closer and closer to kickoff of week 1 of the preseason, as the Bengals will be taking on the Arizona Cardinals coming up at 7:30. You can catch all the action on the Bengals radio network or the Bengals preseason television networks. I'm Marisa Contipelli and Geoff Hobson. This has been your Medical Mutual.